Since gaining independence, now a newborn in the world of free governance, Botswana certainly had its work cut out for her. The early years surely seemed bleak, but tangible and efficient decision-making by the leaders ensured that not only did she blossom, but that the early years were started on the right foot.
I think if you want to put it very bluntly, without Botswana would be nowhere near where it is, because it is through and the financing and the prudent running of the country and the economy was sitting on the back by the revenue that was coming in through the Botswana diamonds. So this is really, you cannot separate the success of Botswana and the success of Botswana, because it was underpinning. Without a good foundation of revenue coming in, I don't believe we would be anywhere near. So the two are inseparable in that context.
Botswana, a leading mining company based in a landlocked sub-Saharan country called Botswana, is the world's leading producer of diamonds by value. Admired for its undisturbed democracy and being one of the world's fastest growing economies between 1966 and 2014. One may ask, just how did all this come to be?
Prospecting had been going on, both for diamonds and other minerals, independently by companies such as RST, the one that is associated with ultimately Silver mine, and then the De Beers for diamonds. But at independence, De Beers had covered what they call a diamond pipe at Orapa, and they said it was a marginal one. So it started with a presentation by Mr. Oppenheimer and Mr. I think it was Nicky Oppenheimer, his cousin, in a conversation with President Khama, Vice President Masire, and the Minister of Trade and Industry called Morgan, who was a Francistown, a white citizen and a Francistown businessman.
The year is 1966. Now an independent state, Botswana must now begin to carve her own path through the barren terrains of her vast land into the history books. A group of geologists from De Beers are hard at work looking for traces of a precious stone that may change the course of her history forever. 1967, the discovery of kimberlite pipelines north of the village of Letlhakane leads to the discovery of two more pipelines in 1968.
They reported that they reported, of course, they discovered diamonds, but that as they call it, the pipe was very marginal. However, they will try and mine it and see what we can do. And the government side, of course, pleaded with them, please to go ahead and mine that pipe, that diamond pipe. And so that's how the mining started.
Discovered by a team of De Beers geologists in 1967 and becoming fully operational in 1971, the Orapa mine is the oldest of all Botswana's operational mines.
Every kimberlite pipe is unique, okay, by the way it was placed and formed many years ago. So kimberlite pipes would not be the same. So they all are placed in a vertical formation, meaning that They are not in any way connected to other kimberlite pipes. So therefore, the diamonds that come from Orapa are unique in every sense of the word, and that's the way the mine was formed many years ago. Secondly, Orapa pit or pipe exists in what we call a province of kimberlite pipes. There's some close to 85 kimberlite pipes in this Letlhakane Orapa region.
The immense potential of this large desert land was tapped. On June 23, 1969, De Beers Botswana Mining Company, Pty Ltd, was conceived, leading to the opening of the Orapa mine in 1971.
There was only one road at the Orapa. It was a bumpy road, dusty. In a house, it was and because of that, Orapa was remote, isolated. The company by then, there was a farm, dairy farm, there was an abattoir, the shop owner is a mine, was spa, Sofalani.
It was decided in government, the regime that then existed was based on a very marginal project, and therefore not much was expected from it in the form of tax and other benefits. But the way it was happening, diamond was proving very, very profitable, and therefore it was decided we should renegotiate. Then we were aware that De Beers had been mining diamonds since the 19th century, and they had a wealth of experience in the form of lawyers and accountants and geologists. Mention it, they had it. We were just Botswana, some regional degrees. So we set up a team to renegotiate. The government notified De Beers that now that the diamond is turning out to be such a rich and highly profitable enterprise, because they also were admitting at that time that we would like to negotiate. And in principle, they were agreeable, or they accepted that should be the case.
Expected to reach a mining depth of 450 meters by the year 2026, the Orapa mine is currently the largest open-cast mine in the world. Averaging an extraction 12 million carats per annum, it also boasts an impeccable environmental management program with an ISO 14001 certification.
We really have had a very good placement of the kimberlite, which contains diamonds, which means that we have not had to move a lot of non-diamond bearing rock in order to access diamond bearing rock. So that's very good from an operations perspective, because then your input costs are relatively lower compared to when you have to move a lot of non-diamond bearing rock in order to access diamond bearing rock. So from that perspective, it makes Orapa very, very unique. And just 4 years from then, in 1971, we started producing diamonds through our #1 plant facility, which was later expanded to have a second stream.
Hagole sama o tsena mo mine o apara di shorts o re t-shirt hello o tsena mo mine wa go bereka go sena bothata le go siamela Kara bogologolo na ha re tsena no gona le mo go teng kore mbaene mongwe le mo le gale o na le system ya go teng kore it's a room ebile go the control room, central control room. Kore go tshwana le ena o na le koloi. Again, we have to have a driver. In that central control room, but what ba lebile sengwe le sengwe se se diragala kore throughout the whole mine mme ba le mo roomong yaanong room ya teng le lebelela mo body gore go iragala body ya teng e ne e tswa ya go heleletsa kwa it's about 900 meters long.
It is the mine that helped this country transform from a very poor economy. So that in itself has been on the back of diamond production revenue. So by Orapa continuing to be the engine of diamond production in the country, that has helped the economy of this country.
For instance, the tarring of the road from Lobate to Francistown was done in many stages. I mean, the first part was Lobate to Gaborone, because Lobate was the town at that time. And then when as the years went by, we then, of course, in the early days, I'm talking about the 70s, we started the road from the main road, the north-south road. We started the road to Muchudi, started the road to Ramoja, because you could afford those. Later, we started the road from Lubate to Kanye, and then Mulepole, Gaborone to Mulepole. So that was that. The north-south road to Francistown and beyond wasn't tarred as a road like that, nearly a patch, Gaborone, Francistown. And then the connections that are shorter. For instance, Surue Palape wasn't tarred until long after Sreta had died, after 14 years of independence. It was started during President Masiri. And by that time, the tarring of the road had reached Palape and going on to Francistown.
Diversifying her operations, the Murupule coal mine was opened and began operations in 1973. 2 years later, the Letlhakane mine began officially operating, becoming the company's second official diamond mine.
So through the years as well, we had discoveries of our Letlhakane mine pipes, meaning then that in 1976 we started producing from Letlhakane mine.
We hired a lawyer called Peter Eigen, a German lawyer from Peter Eigen from the World Bank. He got leave of absence, and we obtained, I think, assistance from the Ford Foundation for us to be able to. And then an Englishman called Bob Dean, an economist, again from the World Bank. He himself was leaving the World Bank on his own, and so he has been somebody we knew through negotiations with development assistance from the World Bank. Then there was a man called Martin Marriott. We heard of a man called Martin Marriott, again British, who had worked on diamonds and had been an advisor to the Sierra Leone government. So that was the team that was to negotiate with the DBS. We started with that, well, since they had claimed that the mine was marginal, a return of about 10% would be about 4 times what they said they expected. And therefore, we offer 10% of the revenues, saying the rest should come to us. But we engaged them to and fro. That ultimately, to cut a long story short, it took some, I think, years, about 18 months, toing and froing, or bringing all sorts of figures and configurations. Ultimately, we agreed the new tax regime, which is still applicable with minor developments over time, whereby the majority of the revenues came to us.
After the initial discovery of more kimberlite pipelines in 1972, Debswana's third official diamond mine began operations in Jwaneng in 1982.
Jwaneng mine started off as an ordinary cattle post. Part of it was a cattle post and part of it was plowing fields, but generally used for agricultural purposes. And in 1972, kimberlite pipe was found in Jwaneng, in an area called the Naledi Valley. And mining of the kimberlite actually started in 1982. And in 1982, production was at levels of 7 million tons per annum, currently sitting at 120 million tons of rock moved per annum. You could see, you can tell the amount of growth and ramp up that happened from 1982 to date. Currently the richest mine by value in the world, and we are here today with the biggest asset in the country.
I ultimately became a senior person when we were dealing with diamonds, because we were renegotiating and trying to improve as new developments took place. For instance, Jwaneng, which became much more profitable than Orapa at the time when it was discovered. That one was after I came back from the IMF. In the mid-70s, I took up a position of executive director for Anglophone Africa in the International Monetary Fund. And Jwaneng was developed at about that time, at about the 1980s, early 1980. But the pattern whereby we had developed diamond advisors, basically the economies, either those who have worked in a diamond country and who don't. We used a lot of technical assistance from Canada, from Scandinavian countries, and from the British themselves.
Fast forward 10 years later, De Beers Botswana Mining Company completed a restructure and rebirth, changing its name officially on the 25th of March 1992 to what we now know as Debswana Diamond Company.
And it is a successful one because not often globally do you see private and public enterprise come together in the way that Debswana has and been successful for so many years. It's not easy. Often the aspirations are different and it becomes quite a management skill to navigate this and to ensure that you continuously satisfy both shareholders. So I think that's definitely one that I would like to highlight, and I think many organizations globally can learn from it.
Later in 2000, we then started another expansion project to build our number 2 plant, which gave us significantly increased capacity. We also then started our newest and smallest of our mines, the Damta mine, in 2002. So it's been a history of growth and significant contribution to the economy of the country.
By working together, building trust, putting safety first, being passionate, caring, and shaping the future, Debswana's core values, vision, and mission have seen them reach this extraordinary milestone. This is the story of a diamond mining company. Much like the precious mineral it mines, has stood the test of time and has transformed a nation from poverty to being a shining beacon of hope an unequivocal beauty, and immense potential of Africa.
The reason why we called it the development, Diamonds for Development, was precisely because there were two secondary schools, Mueng and St. Joseph's, senior secondary schools. Then I think there was a school in Malapole and Kanye. Yes, and maybe one in Francistown, junior secondary schools. That was the totality of education, and they had to be paid for. But when Diamonds came, of course, we started building. We said that water development, public health in the form of primary health care, not advanced medical medicine, became very important. And water development, because we are an arid country. So those were the priorities that were set. That's why we said the diamonds were for development.
50 years back, it was really about giving the shareholder a return, which enabled them to do significant development in country. We're talking infrastructural development, social amenities, etc.
Not only have we been producing a high number of carats and selling them to the market, but you know what? 2018, we produced one of the rarest stones that has ever come out of this company, the Okavango Blue. It came out of Orapa mine, and it's really one of the most special, most rare stones to ever be produced by Botswana.
Celebrating 50 years of developing Botswana in 2019, Botswana's undeniably impactful presence in the country continues to dig deeper into becoming a global leader in the diamond industry. This was a major milestone when looking back to Botswana's early years in mining and its economy.